Hey divers, welcome to our channel Azul Unlimited, where we teach all things scuba diving. I'm Sarah, and today I'm here to talk to you about different ways to get into the water from a boat while wearing side mount configuration. Although side mount is really nice to dive in and to be underwater in, it is not necessarily known as the most comfortable thing to be wearing at the surface. This is why it's really important to know a few tricks to make your entrance as easy as possible. Just a little disclaimer, there are many opinions about side mount, about setup, techniques, skills, all of that stuff. So this is just from my perspective, some opinions and tips that I've found that work for me. Hopefully they'll help you too. But remember, this is for you. So try different tips out, figure out what works for you, and just stick with that. Also, because we are in quarantine right now, you will notice that all of my videos are not actually from a boat. Okay, our boat is not available at the moment. We are staying in quarantine, so you will just have to imagine the boat structure as I explain this stuff. You have a few options for getting into the water from the boat in side mount configuration. The easiest way and most comfortable way is if you are able to jump into the water with just your harness, your fins, and your mask. This is most ideal, most comfortable because you do not have the full weight of the tanks on your body. This is really only possible in places where maybe you have really steady, safe conditions where there's no waves, there's no current. You can easily get back to the boat and the boat doesn't have any risk of running into anything, the reef or other boats. This means that you can get into the water and then just swim back to the boat, pick up your tanks, and go for it. This is also really only possible if you have kind of a low area on your boat. Some boats are quite high, so you can't have somebody hand your tanks down. So you really need like a low boat, or if the boat has a platform that's easy to access, then you could also set up your tanks there, have somebody help you to get them into the water. Make sure that you orally inflate your harness just a little bit before you jump in. And then you want to make sure that you put on your left tank first, because that's the one that has the inflator hose. Once you have that left tank on, you can inflate your bladder and then prepare yourself to take the right tank. The next way to get into the water would be with one tank. And anytime that you're going with one tank, it's always going to be your left tank because that's the one, again, with the inflator hose. Remember, although you are diving and you're jumping in the water with the same weight as you would with regular single tank back mount, you have the weight on one side. So you really need to be careful because your balance is going to be way off, especially if the boat is moving a little bit. Try your best to put on the tank either already seated at the exit point or right next to the exit point on the boat so that you don't have to do a lot of walking around. If you do have to move when you have the one tank connected, try to hold on to something as you move around because you are going to be very off balanced. When you jump in while wearing one tank at the side, you really want to make sure that you stabilize that tank for impact. Okay, so you would use your right hand over the face just as normal, but you want to use your left hand to hold that left tank close to your body. Once you're in the water, again, you want to make sure that you give a full inflate to your bladder and then you grab the second tank to put on in the water. Finally, the least ideal situation is jumping into the water with both tanks already attached. The reason for this is because it's insanely heavy and not very easy to move around on the boat. However, it's very important that you know how to get into the water with both tanks already attached, because in a lot of places, like in Komodo here, you can't really go back to the boat to pick up your second tank because a lot of places have strong current, and so it's just not possible. So you really need to know how to jump in with all of your gear ready to go, because you just gotta get in the water and go down. There are a couple of options for getting into the water with both tanks. Again, it's not comfortable, it's not gonna feel pretty, but it is possible to do. Our first option is the back roll. This is done typically from speedboats, so it's pretty easy to use the side of the boat to get yourself situated and clipped in. I always recommend that you put on your fins first, because once you have your tanks on, it's really hard to like get to your feet. So you really should just prepare yourself before. As with the other options, you want to put on the left tank first. You want to get the butt of the tank on the outside, so resting on the edge of the boat. Make sure that it's on the outside of the boat. If you have a pouch attached to your side mount harness like this, then you want to make sure that that's also on the outside of the boat, just so that it doesn't catch on anything. Once you are clipped in with the left side, so you've got your regulator in, your hose connected, then you want to grab your second tank, and you can either just clip it on the side, and you can hold both tanks with your left arm as you back roll with your right hand in front of your face holding your mask. Once you're in the water, then you can adjust your right tank and get the hose in its place. Or you can fully attach it to yourself, getting the bungee around the valve, getting the regulator in place, all of that stuff, so that you jump in with the full equipment in its right place. You want to make sure that your tank ends are on the outside of the boat and that you are well inflated. Finally, probably the most difficult one to do is the giant stride with both tanks on. When you're on a boat, it's a little bit easier because you can usually just rest the tanks on the benches on the boat so that you can set up your equipment kind of standing next to the exit point. As you can see in this video, I do not have a boat, so I'm just showing you how you can set up the equipment with an assistant, okay? Somebody can help by holding the tank while you get clipped in, while you put the bungees around, because the tanks are far too heavy to be able to do all of that stuff on your own. You really want to make sure that you do this. If you're going to jump in with both tanks, that you do it right next to your exit point, or at least very, very close, because you do not want to be walking around a boat with two tanks on. Finally, when you jump into the water, again, you want to brace yourself for impact. So you can use your left arm to stabilize the tanks and your right hand over your face to make sure you don't lose your mask or anything. This is especially important if you're diving off of a very tall dive boat, because there will be impact from the water. So you want to make sure that you're really holding and stabilizing those tanks. Finally, in preparation for getting out of the water, during your safety stop, you can prepare your right tank to take it off at the surface. So you can take off your regulator, store it, unbungee that right tank, and then once you're close to the surface, you can unclip, swim, and hand it up either to the boat crew or onto the floating platform. Once you get to that point, you can either take off your left tank as well and go up the ladder without any tanks, or it is possible to climb up ladders with your left tank on. Just again, be aware of the balance issue that you will be having, since all of that weight is on your left side. All right, so I hope that this was helpful. I hope you're getting excited to go on your next side mount dive. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more scuba diving adventures.